This is episode 76 of Lifestyle Locker Radio, and our amazing guest today is me. Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hand, and welcome to the Lifestyle Locker Radio, where we dive into what makes an awesome lifestyle. From relationships to money mindset, nutrition to fitness, emotional health to peak performance, we bring you on an amazing journey to unleashing your human potential. Hey guys, I want to do things a little differently today, being that I'm only having a conversation with all of you. There's no special guest. I think I'm special, but there's no special guest, so I want to just share a little bit about myself with all of you, because some of you may not know some of my past. I'm probably a little different than a lot of people you may have met, in a sense that I'm a vaccine-free. I have not been vaccinated. I've been an athlete almost all of my life, jumping from sport to sport. I enjoy lots of things. My biggest passions in sport earlier in life, starting at 4 years old, was alpine skiing. And still to this day, I still absolutely love skiing. I played baseball for a handful of years. A really crappy coach got me out of the game when he benched me after I hit a game-winning home run it was a doubleheader. So I got out of baseball. There you go. Coaches are helpful and can be harmful or hurtful to young people. I think I was 16 or 17 at the time, and I was a punk. So I guess maybe it may have been for the better. Who knows? I got into mountain biking for a while. I got into road biking. I've done a triathlon sprint. I, belonged to a CrossFit gym for a couple of years, and now I just completed an ultra marathon, a trail ultra marathon, which is a 50-kilometer race. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm kind of a wild child in the sense that I just love to do things that are intense, whether it's hiking really hard things, putting my body and mind to this crazy challenge. Last year I did the same race I just had done yesterday, which is the 50-kilometer race. Last year I did the marathon. So, of course, after I finished the marathon last year, I'm like, all right, I don't ever need to do that again. My goal is to do a marathon. And I guess I didn't do a marathon again. I signed myself up for an ultra marathon, and I had two buddies that went ahead and did it as well, which is really cool. So, there you go. Okay, so why are we really here today? I want to actually talk to you about the ultra, the pre, the during, and the post. This was a really, really neat experience all the way around. I think I gave myself approximately 4 months to train for this event. If I can paint a picture for you, last year's marathon, the same area, it's called the North Face Endurance Challenge, was at Bear Mountain, New York, which is very hilly, very rocky, a lot of vertical change. And last year's race was really unusual. It was in May. It was actually, I believe, the second week in May. And it was 40 degrees outside Fahrenheit, and it had rained 3 inches. It was a nor'easter, so windy, rainy, muddy, stream crossings, rock scrambles. It was completely miserable. And, I thought I'd warm up during the race. I wore arm sleeves. I had compression on. Hat, and all this, and all the food and water and hydration I probably should have had. And it was so cold, I could barely drink the water during the marathon. I couldn't even eat my food. I had like these packets of it was organic almond butter that I rip open, and it was so cold that they were almost frozen. I couldn't even get any the almond butter out of them. It was absolutely insane. It was a godsend during one of the aid stations that there was someone with warm bone broth back then. So fast forward to this year, I said I was never going to do the race again, so I opted to do one that's a little bit bigger. So the 50K is 32 miles. So about 4 months prior, saying to start training, I was out in BC doing an event called the Men of Iron, and not a training event, but during this I was kickboxing, and I ended up bruising or possibly even breaking one or two ribs, and that took about a month off of my running. And to that point, 4 months, before, I had just started running. The most I had probably ran was like 2 or 3 miles at a clip again, and so I had to ramp it up the last 3 months of training. And I know a lot of you have probably followed me on Instagram and or Facebook or the Lifestyle Locker Facebook page. And what I did, I really tried to do things, and maybe the word hack or biohack is, I don't even know if it's an appropriate word, but I tried to do as many things possible that are not cheating, if you will, but like I wasn't talking about medication or drugs or anything like that, but I was trying to do as many natural things, techniques, vitamins, supplements, sleep, breathing, I'll get into all of them, that I could possibly do to make me be able to do this event, where I know people that train for 6-8 months for these types of events, and I was doing it in approximately 3. So first thing first, one of the most important things, I think, is, believe it or not, it's a staple of my training. I shouldn't say staple, but one of the most important things is I get adjusted, chiropractic adjustments every single week. And that is so crucial to nervous system function, because your nervous system controls every single cell, tissue, organ in your whole body, right? So, I need to make sure that I'm digesting food and assimilating nutrients that I need to have. I need to make sure my sympathetic and parasympathetic, those the fight or flight and or rest and digest nervous systems, are optimally functioning, because I want to make sure my muscles are going to fire when they should, how they should, and the best that they could. But I also need to make sure that when I'm resting and digesting, that I'm healing from the use and abuse of training. So chiropractic is my staple, is my main thing that I do, that I do not miss a week ever. 2, I really have changed my diet probably over the past 3 or 4 years, and I really honed down and kind of stuck to a pretty close to what they call like a bulletproof diet, what Dave Asprey speaks about. I will eat mostly ketogenic. It's like a combination of ketogenic, paleo, bulletproof, all the above, and I'm not 100% strict all the time, but I do my best to stay strict most of the time. I intermittent fast about 5 to 6 days a week, which means, just to give you an example, for instance, like Sunday night, we eat dinner like 6, 7, 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. And 8 a.m. next morning is 12 hours. And then I go all the way to 1 to 2 o'clock. So we got 12, right? How many hours is that? Let me think in my head here. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 hours. So sorry, I'm not good at math here. I'm doing an 18-hour fast most days of the week. And that helps do many things, like allows me to start to metabolize, like actually burn fat better. I tend to have a boatload more energy. My head is 1,000 times clearer. And during that intermittent fast, what I do in the morning, every single morning, I make a coffee that has MCT oil or caprylic acid in it, and usually Kerrygold butter, and I blend it up there. So it's a nice high-fat, high-calorie coffee, organic coffee with butter and oil in it, and it tastes phenomenal. But that's like kind of like an oil candle for energy versus like having a wax candle that burns pretty quick. So I do that, and then I actually will eat. Lunch will be something, just to give you an example, usually will be a salad, a lot of fresh veggies. We'll have like 4 to 6 tablespoons of organic olive oil on there, apple cider vinegar, lots of different spices like thyme and rosemary and black pepper and Himalayan salt and apple cider. If I said apple cider vinegar already, I'll have that on there. And then it's good. And there's some kind of protein. Sometimes I have like wild caught tuna. Sometimes I have some organic chicken. Sometimes I'll even have some, we get some really awesome organic chopped beef. It'll make something the night before, and I'll have some of those leftovers of protein during the day. And then I'll have that at like 2 o'clock, we'll say, then get home at 8 p.m. for dinner, eat another healthy thing. Usually we're not eating, so we'll eat salads sometimes in the evening, but I usually do like to have cooked vegetables. They're usually a little bit easier to digest. And, I love making really cool stir fries with coconut oil and veggies and liquid aminos. And so I'd have that type of veggie, if you will, a cooked veggie. We'll usually have an organic white rice and or my favorite, I like to call them my power potatoes, which is made similar to my coffee. We chop up, and this is good. You got to try this if you've not tried these potatoes. Chop up sweet potatoes, organic sweet potatoes. We chop them up into, like 1-inch cubes, give or take, pretty small. And we put them on like a roasting sheet, or not a cookie sheet, but something that has edges on it so you don't lose all the oil and doesn't ruin your oven. But we take them, we put a couple blops of coconut oil on it. I take a big dollop or two of butter, the Kerrygold butter. I put a bunch of Himalayan salt, put a bunch of really good cinnamon on top of that as well, usually organic, or I should say always organic. And I put it in the oven for a few minutes, let everything melt and get gooey, and we mix them all around. Then we put them back in the oven and we roast them for a while, like 40 minutes. And they are to die for. I could eat these things for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but I don't eat breakfast, but I could eat them all the freaking time. They're so good. If anybody wants it, leave us a comment on iTunes or hit me up on any of the social media handles, and I'll give you my recipe. It's so good, so good. So that's like that's how I've been eating. The weekends, I'll usually eat 2 or 3 meals a day, sometimes 4. I do cheat. I may, randomly, like once a month, I'll go to a great restaurant, which I love, called Art Cafe, which is in Nyack, New York. And I get something called the American Breakfast, and they have the most ridiculous pancakes. My gut and digestion doesn't usually like them too much, but I get real maple syrup, some organic eggs, and fruit, and it's so good. And they have the best coffee, too. French press. It's so good. But nonetheless, so food has been a huge staple, a huge part of my training. But when it comes to running for this, I know you're thinking, okay, he's doing an ultra marathon. How come you haven't mentioned running or training? So that's the next piece. So we have food, we have my chiropractic adjustments, and now we're going to have some movement here. So my movement training is usually anywhere between 3 to 5 days a week, depending on my schedule. I usually push to have close to 5. I average probably about 4 realistically, but a lot of weeks I'll have 5. And I do a lot of weight training, which may be unusual, and I do a lot of interval training. We had such a weird winter here, and early spring. It was been so wet and so snowy that running outdoors by us has been very, very challenging for most of the winter season. So I did a lot of treadmill training, which I don't like, but I feel that I get a much harder workout on a treadmill because it's much more boring. It's harder on your mind, and it's like you're at a consistent pace. So you're not like having your body like innately slow down a little bit, and you don't have that push to kind of just let your body get a little faster when you want, like maybe going down a downhill or on a flat. So 1 or 2 days a week, I will do a distance run, whether it would be indoors or outdoors, and that would be anything between, we'll say, 8 and 13 miles. Those are my long days. There have been weeks where I'll put in double half marathons. And other days on the treadmill, and I'm going to tell you weight training. So those days I do a lot of distance. I don't usually do a lot of heavy lifting. I'll do things called farmer's carries with some weight, usually 17 yards each direction, going as heavy as 225 pounds, or overhead farmer carry with a dumbbell, like a 50 to 80 pound dumbbell for balance and stability in my spine, and obviously to build some endurance. So I'll do that on those days. And the days that I'm going to sprint, what I do is interval sprints at a hill, or if it's a treadmill, I'm going up from 9 to 15 degrees, and I'll change it up. Sometimes I'll go a tenth of a mile as a sprint, and I'll slow down for a quarter or 2/10 of a mile, and then I'll sprint for a tenth of a mile. And I'm doing this at these 9 to 15 degree intervals, and I'll do this anywhere from distance wise 2 to 3 miles, or until I think I'm going to throw up, which I haven't done that in the gym yet, and I hope I don't do that. And as well as I'll rather than just distance, I'll do it for time. Sometimes I'll do 30 seconds off, minute not, or 30 seconds on, minute off, 30 seconds on, minute off, 30 seconds on, minute off, until I can't do it anymore. Sometimes I can get 5 minutes, sometimes I can get 20 minutes. I mean, these are killer, and I think these help build some of the best endurance athletes. This for me, it helps me so much, this hill intervals. And frankly, it's a lot nicer on your knees running up hills than it is running flat or downhill. It's a little tougher on your joints. But so I have those. And the days that I'm doing sprinting, I'm usually lifting, and I do everything from dumbbell bench press and pulls. I'll do pull-ups. I'll do squats. I just started getting back into some Olympic lifting. I put some videos on Instagram. I'm doing some cleans. I haven't gotten to the jerk part yet. I have to, now that I'm done with the marathon, we'll get into probably a little bit more lifting. Lots of different weight training, a lot of traditional stuff. And I do a lot of, and I always do mobility work before I run and mobility work before I lift. And that's, everything from my shoulder, from, my neck down to my shoulders, down to my spine, down to my hips, my knees, my ankles. I'm doing some mobility work, and I don't necessarily mean stretching. I'm not talking about lengthening muscles. I'm actually talking about moving my joints in the joint areas, which I think is much healthier, actually. So I do that before every exercise. So I do this for about 3 months. And another thing that I'll usually do when I'm at the gym, and I do this sporadically because it's all based on time for me. I really like to do jump in the sauna. And our sauna at the gym is about 190 degrees. And I will go in, and a lot of times depending if I just lift it around, which I usually have, I'll do some light stretching, some light movement, some air squats, just to cut slow, just to get that full range of motion to my joints, make sure my muscles are staying nice and loose. But I'll stay in the sauna for about 30 minutes. So I'm not moving this whole time. I'll usually move for 5 minutes or so, or maybe 10 minutes. And then I'll sit, and I usually have a giant 40 ounces of water with me, 40 ounces of water. And I will drink that throughout the time I'm in there, as well as, I'll usually try to breathe and meditate a little bit, try to get some time, as long as some knuckleheads don't roll into the sauna with their headphones blasting while they're wearing their sneakers and their sweatshirts. I like to go in there and be peaceful. So that I like to do that at the gym as well. As far as supplementation goes, a lot of people ask me what kind of things I'm doing, what I'm using, what I enjoy. I'm not a huge supplement head, but I do like to take things that are good for me. I think I have a staple now of a handful, and I started to jack it up a little bit closer to the race, but I've been taking CBD oil, and you guys can, direct message me or email me if you want info on what I take. I take CBD oil every day. I take, since March, I've been taking spirulina and chlorella for different reasons. One for energy, one for the detox and helping break down some of that lactic acid. I take vitamin D, about 10,000 units of vitamin D. I take a fish oil, and I take, because I've had knee surgery, and my body's been pretty beat up physically. I take something called Ligaplex 1, which is from a company called Standard Process, on a pretty regular basis when I remember. But as I got closer to the marathon, I took all of those, and I made sure I was taking the Ligaplex, this joint support, a lot more. And I was actually taking from drax.com, I was taking fermented turmeric capsules, and I've been living on the path since probably before March. But definitely before March. I think actually about a year. Never mind March. It's been a year. I've been taking collagen protein for a year because of, it's one, I need one extra protein, and it's kind of a great snack. And the collagen is good for everything. It's great. It's a great protein source. I'm not a big dairy guy, so that was very helpful to have that type of protein, because I don't want whey, really. But so those are the things I take on a regular basis. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, there's a company called Sun Warrior. I do like they make a dehydrated greens, which I do like, and I take that usually with the protein. I usually have a dark chocolate protein from Dr. Axe, the bone broth protein, and I mixed the greens in with it because the greens have dried peppermint leaves in it, and it makes like a chocolate mint. It's so good. My staff in my chiropractic office look at me like, "You're having chocolate and mint bone broth? That's gross." But it actually tastes pretty good. So those are my supplements. That's my kind of my basic training regimen. I killed a Garmin watch this past year. I'll probably get another one soon, and I'll have an Oura ring to measure some HRV in the very near future. The new one that just came out. So let me fast forward to the race. So for the race, I couldn't really track. I tried tracking it via the phone, via using Strava, the app Strava, and once I lost signal, it stopped. I think like a quarter mile in. It was pretty funny. But the race, my God, that morning, I'm not sure how many of you have actually done any kind of events, like sporting events that are, are going to be really hard. They can be stressful mentally. So in the morning, I wake up, man, I got to, you think I'm gross here. I'll be gross for a second, and I apologize to anybody listening that thinks it's gross. But I usually, when I was an alpine skier, we would call it like a pre-race shit. I got to go to the bathroom first thing. My body will naturally evacuate anything it needs to get rid of. I do that first thing in the morning. I make my super duper coffee with the caprylic acid and butter. Blend that in. That's what I had on the ride over to the race early in the morning. We left, I believe, at just like 5:30, 5:40. I think we left in the morning to head up to the race. But I also did take all my joint support, some anti-inflammatory, the ginger and turmeric, and I also took my chlorella that started to break down because I knew it was going to kick in about an hour when the race started, and that helps with lactic acid. So that's what I started with, but I had packed with me tons of food. I had like almost 3,000, between 2,000 and 3,000 calories with me. And over the course of the race, I think I probably about 1,500 or so. But I just get out in that race, man, and I get like so laser focused and nervous as hell. I've never done this before, and I'm not sure if any of you have done any of these races or any type of event like this where you're just like, holy cow, like what's gonna happen? Am I gonna finish the race? Am I gonna break my leg? Some of those thoughts go through my head, but some of the other thoughts that go through my head, and some of the things that I've been taught growing up, and I forgot to mention this in my training, and I did some other things. I really have to. I did what we call, I do meditation, so I think that's huge. The mental game is insanely huge. But I got into Wim Hof breathing, and I use Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, and I use something called Ziva meditation, and I'm using all of these tools. And I used something called a biomat, which is amethyst crystal, and this big mat that heats up. It's pretty cool, like supposed to be healing in nature. But the mental game, I would do a lot of the breathing work lying down, and that was very helpful because what my father taught me growing up as an alpine skier, and I did this through high school and through college racing. I always was visualizing because this course, as a skier, the neat thing about skiing, you were able to what they call shadow a course. You would go up early before the race started. You couldn't actually ski the course, but you can slowly slide down the mountain, like around the course, and all right, know where this turn is. Okay, I have to prep this turn ahead of this. I have to prep this over here. Got to come in really high in this end. So you kind of can plan and visualize your turns and your, where you need to really hammer down and where you may need to tuck and go faster, where you may need to stand up and slow down. You have all of this preparation where you can totally visualize the whole course. We used to watch, my father used to let me watch, and we used to train, let me watch this guy, Jean-Claude Keely. This is going way back, and he would actually, you'd see him like in these videos where he'd have his eyes closed at the top of the course, and you see his hands and his body leaning, tilting, moving left and right, as if he was skiing in his mind, skiing down the mountain. And that's something I'm grateful that my parents had taught me, that this is the way the pros do it. It's the physical part you need to be able to do, but the mental game is where it really all happens. And being that I couldn't see all 32 miles, right? I could not see all 32 miles of this course. I'd been on sections of it last year. Not that I remember them, because we've had so many storms and trees down and so on and so forth. I knew I was going to see some similar things, and obviously not. So I couldn't really visualize all 32 miles, but I knew what that last half a mile looked like coming to the finish line. And the night before, days before, the night before, that morning, and just staring out as we're getting ready to start, knowing what that finish line, knowing what it's going to look like, when I finish. And I'll just give you the end result for a second here. I ended up finishing 30 minutes faster than I had planned. I'm like, you know what? Last year was brutal. If I can average a 15-minute mile over the course of 32 miles, I'm going to be stoked, which is 8 hours. I finished in 7 hours and 30 minutes. So I beat my guesstimated time by 30 minutes, and I full-on turbo sprinted through the finish line, amped up, supercharged, because I saw that moment happening, and I was thinking of that as I was actually going through the trail. But I'll tell you this, for those of you that have thought, I'd love to maybe do one of these one day, or I have done one of these one day, maybe I failed, maybe I didn't, maybe I came in first, whatever it may be. The biggest thing, in my understanding, with doing these, or what I've learned in doing these two bigger races, and granted, I'm not an expert yet. I plan on actually pushing a little harder and maybe setting some loftier goals over the next year in this type of world. But what I've found is that your head is the biggest obstacle or your best friend in the race. Because I could tell you, your body's going to yell at you, your mind's going to yell at you. And yeah, if your body's saying you may have broke your ankle, you might want to stop and not run through it. But your mind a lot of times will say, why are you doing this? Stop. You're nuts. This is crazy. You're going to be so sore, or whatever it is. Like, you're never going to finish. Your mind will play these games with you. And I kept on having like this little mantra this time when I was running, and maybe people thought I was crazy. I was telling myself the whole time, well, I'm good at uphills. I'd even say it out loud. Like, that's my strong point, because I hate downhills. My knees right now hate downhills. Like, painful. But I had a lot of them. But I'm good at uphills. But what most people do is have to stroll or walk or, crawl up these hills. And I made sure I either ran or speed walked or any way I could get up these hills quick. I did. But I would also go, I'm like a choo-choo train. And I'm going through, when I was in points where I was by myself, there were only a couple people on the trail at a time that that I saw. I was always going, chicka, 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 chicka. And, I was telling my family this after, and they said, well, they probably thought a lot of people are really, a lot of people probably thought you were really crazy, and that's why they either ran ahead or slowed down to let you go. But I'll tell you what, putting some awesome thoughts and awesome affirmations into your mind during these runs is something that will help you so much. I personally would not do one of these nature or outdoor ultra marathons with headphones on. I think you are able to connect better with your environment if you are listening to your environment. I mean, during training runs, if you want, if you want to wear headphones and listen to your music and so on, great. I love to do the same, but I really think that listen to nature, listen to yourself, listen to your surroundings. You maybe start to hear your cadence, or your if you're slapping your feet down hard or whatever it may be. You gotta have that your ears and your senses with you. And when I'd pass like some of these trees on some of these downhills, I put my hands on them. I doing everything I could to be grounded the best that I can, connect with nature the best that I can. So the mind game and these mantras, if you will, or affirmations and things I kept on telling myself really helped me go through. Because I tell you what, there was one downhill that I was, dropping F-bombs left and right because my knees were killing me as the two, I think, lead 50-miler, not 50K guys, or 50-milers come bombing down this hill. I mean, each stride they were covering like 15 feet because it was so steep. And I'm like, I didn't even know what to think. I'm like, holy crap. I wanted to quit. I really did. But all it takes is, that split second, right? What are you thinking? Snap out of it and get back on course. And I'll tell you the nutrition during the race, the electrolytes. Last year I said I didn't drink barely anything. This race, I drank about a gallon. I think I drank about 3.5 liters of water. I finished my 2-liter pack. I finished my two 16-ounce bladders of exogenous ketones that I had in the front, and I refilled those up 2 times each with electrolytes, Himalayan salt in there. So hydration made the race a lot easier. And I think this is such a huge thing because, most of us during the day don't drink enough water at all. So put that in. If I had to give you a golden nugget from this talk, move your body, drink a boatload of water, make sure you get a lot of veggies in your diet. And so just to bring it to the end of the race here, I kept on telling myself that I was going to finish. I'm going to finish. And holy cow, like getting to that last aid station, and I'm jumping up and down the last 2 aid stations. I think there was something like one at, it was like mile 24, 26, something like that. It was maybe just shy of the marathon distance. And I'm like, holy crap, this is almost the longest I've ran in one shot. And the last aid station was mile marker 28. I still had had electrolytes on me. I just said, holy crap, I'm going for it. And it is weird the type of energy that your body can stir up when you're going to finish. You're going to make it. Like, holy crap, this is going to happen. I had 2.8 miles left. I put my afterburners on. I ran the whole way. I think faster than I ran most of the marathon. So if I had a GPS tracker, which I didn't, I think we'd see that those the last 2.8 miles were my fastest miles of the race, and they were the muddiest. They were the wet. Oh man, but so to kind of just conclude here, I think that being able to accomplish and do these type of events, and I know I'm talking a bunch and maybe rambling a little bit, but this experience was beyond amazing. And people are like, why would you do it? That's crazy. And a lot of people, everybody was saying congratulations, because I was out at a confirmation today. No, communion today. I was at a communion today, walking around and hanging out with family and friends, and people are like, wow, you did 50K yesterday and you can still move? And yeah, I can. So I think it's a testament to how you take care of your body and your mind. The days after, you can just be awesome. You don't have to really, worry. I see people in the city after the New York Marathon that are like walking like stick figures. And I mean, I know I'm only a day out. Yeah, am I sore? Am I stiff? Of course, but I'm able to completely function. And I think it has a lot to say with the way I take care of myself. So everybody, this is me. This is Lifestyle Locker, and I want all of these awesome things for all of you. So until next time, Locker Nation, thank you so much for listening to me ramble about the Ultra Marathon. Peace out. Hey, Locker Nation. Thanks for listening to me ramble and babble about what it took for me to get through this Ultra Marathon pre, during, and the post. If you have any real questions, what I said didn't make sense to you, or you want to know more of what I've done to kind of biohack my way through this event, shoot me a direct message on Instagram, post something on our Facebook page, and then share. If you have something and an experience you want to share, I'd love to hear about it, because these are really cool events and really challenging to the mind, body, and spirit. So share with us, and if you did like what you heard, or are hearing, or heard, whichever one you want to do. Shoot over to iTunes. Give us a nice review. I greatly appreciate it. The great reviews we get allow more people to listen in and to hear the message that we're sharing of having an awesome lifestyle. I do want all of us to unleash our human potential. I want all of us to have the healthiest and the happiest life possible. So have a fantastic day, a fantastic evening, morning, whenever you're listening to this. All right. Bye-bye.